In recent years, French bread has gained a bunch of popularity in their games, and it's all thanks to this stupid-looking cat. Well, it's partly because of her, partly because their newest fighting game had several fake characters in it, and we all know how popular that series is. Partly because there was a large push in the FGC to get these games recognized at bigger events and have more people play them. But if you were to ask me, the success of French bread recently has easily got to be because of the stupid cat. But their games are still accessible enough to play, which is a massive help. But what do I mean by accessible? Am I talking about the auto combo system, which was a trend that was seemingly going to be added to every fighting game before slowly fading away? Or the simplification of complex systems between the releases of games? No, of course not. People hate those things. Apparently. No, I'm talking about how easy it is to actually just play French bread games. Melty Blood Type Lumina has a pretty fair price tag for a fully developed fighting game, with it having sales pretty often, sometimes being as low as half of its base price, like right now. Plus, all of the characters that came out after the game were released were 100% free, and came with the base game. Not to mention, thanks to the community, Melty Blood Actress Again current code is completely free if you get the community edition. And it's recommended that you get that version of the game as it has... let's go with more complete features and actual functioning netcode. Granted, neither of these games are the greatest PC fighting game ports of all time, but they actually work, which means that if you want to get into Melty Blood, you got some pretty good and easy options to start with. Actually, learning these games is a whole other issue, but they're at least easy to get on your computer and start playing. Hell, MBAC's easy as fuck to run as well, so you don't even need a good system. But after Melty Blood, there was another game. Another franchise that French bread made, which was arguably better, and at one point, was even more popular, but never got its true chance in the limelight. Be it circumstances out of its control, poor timing, or whatever other factors, Undernight in Birth always seemed to be somewhat of a darling in the fighting game community, but nothing more. A fun 2D sprite fighting game with a lot of complex and unique systems. Undernight in Birth is seemingly loved by everyone who touches it. However, due to several factors, it's never got any massive appeal. And the people who've actually checked it out have done so from personal recommendations or seeing the game and going, wow, that looks cool. It's not like the older versions of Uni were unplayable, but they were definitely missing some critical features and information. Mainly all of the games having weird names that make no sense and making it hard to figure out which is the newest game if you're not knowing what you're looking for. Steam does not help with this, by the way. No joke, I bought Undernight in Birth EX Late thinking it was the newest version of the game, not realizing that Undernight in Birth EX Late CL-R was actually the newest version. Yeah, I'm an idiot. But that's all about to change, as a new version of Undernight is being made, simply called Undernight in Birth 2. Sis cells, they couldn't help themselves. With new characters, new moves, and new ways to use the system mechanics, Uni 2 is shaping up to be the best entry in the series yet. Recently, it just had a beta test, PlayStation only unfortunately, and I had a chance to check the game out and stress test the features that could put Uni on the map. So, let's talk about the game. Let's talk about Undernight in Birth 2. But first, a word from our sponsor, Phantom Blade Executioners. Phantom Blade is a 2D hack-and-slash game for mobile devices with a PlayStation version releasing next year. Choose from one of 4 amazing characters, all with their unique gameplay style. I really like Mew, because she has a lot of fast-hitting moves and she does a lot of damage. Also, her pink hair looks really nice. You can go back and choose any other character at any time, so don't worry if you don't like the one you picked. The fast, dynamic combat is extremely fun, and the ability to customize your combo to your liking is a really neat feature I haven't seen in a lot of action games in this style. And the style is beautiful. The beautiful painted art style really gives life to everything that's on screen, and makes the flashy cinematic supers feel really, really impactful. Seeing this style on an actual monitor instead of my phone is definitely something that I'm looking forward to when it releases on PlayStation next year. The Phantom Blade IP has been around for about 15 years, and this is the first time that it's releasing outside of China. The story of the game is deep and has a bunch of twists and turns for you to experience. The gameplay can be challenging at times, but be patient. It is absolutely worth it to get to those later areas. But for now, you can go and enjoy Phantom Blade Executioners today for free by using my link in the description and in the pinned comment. Thank you so much to Phantom Blade Executioners for the sponsor. Now let's get on with the video. Undernight in Birth is an intense anime fighting game where you secretly are just playing tug of war with your opponent in order to win something known as Vorpal. See those little squares at the bottom of the screen? That is the grid system. By hitting your opponent, teching when you're in a combo, shielding an attack, and pretending you're a Dragon Ball character, you gain grid. You lose grid by getting hit, backdashing, using your force function, which is like a unique, powerful move for each character, getting your attacks blocked by shield, having your throws be teched, and staring at your opponent while they're pretending to be a Dragon Ball character. After 16.5 in-game seconds, yes, it's that precise, the circle behind the grid completes itself. When this happens, the player with more grid gets something known as Vorpal. This gives the winning character a 10% damage boost, so it's pretty important to win this every chance that you get if you want to do more damage. Plus, you gain access to Chain Shift, which is a Roman cancel-like move where you can double tap the D button and it will cause you to cancel whatever move you're doing and begin draining your grid to give you meter. While the draining is happening, you keep your 10% damage buff, but as soon as the grid is drained, you lose the buff and go back to your normal power level. Grid is the defining factor of Undernight, and is something that you are constantly aware of. It's an amazing way to keep players engaged and interested, even if the match is slightly slowing down or in a neutral state. You got 2 seconds before Vorpal ends and you're in neutral? Time to be a Dragon Ball character, I guess. The characters of Uni are all also fucking insane in the best possible way. Even the simplest of characters have some crazy things going on that would make other fighting game characters blush and shit their pants. You know Johnny, right? That Johnny. The lean man. Well, imagine if you would, that Johnny was instead an anime girl. Wrong anime girl. Okay, much better. Now imagine if that teleport dash didn't take him out of misfire stance. Now imagine he was able to do all of his misfires from one stance. Now imagine that you also have a parry. Now imagine that it's only half of his kit. Welcome to Undernight. Combos are long, sometimes complicated, sometimes hard, but always cool and fun to do. Half of the reason that you get into this game is because of the combos, as well as the stupid setups that you're able to get off of them. My only experience with this game series before the beta was just getting my ass kicked by Batista and being forced to guess 50-50 instant overhead and low mix-ups. Could you imagine being stuck in a situation where a small child has a gem in front of her, fully charged laser, and flash kick, and another 2 gems that are about to pop out? Well, you don't have to imagine anymore because the game's getting a sequel! Now, normally, fighting game sequels change a lot of things, but Uni 2 doesn't add a lot of crazy stuff. In fact, the game is mostly the same. The grid system's still here, the meter works the same, the characters all have their old movesets, and the only real differences are the buffs and nerfs along with the new characters. Basically, all of the characters got at least one new move to toy around with, as well as some universal mechanics like this little dodge. But there was also a lot of balance changes to characters across the board. The main one that I know is that Batista can finally get counter hit, because for some reason in the old games, that wasn't possible. Why was it not possible? The developers are fucking insane? I don't know. There's also 3 new characters in the game. Granted, we could only try out 2 of them since one of them wasn't available, but the ones that we could play were all a treat. Kaguya has 2 guns and knows exactly how to use them, being able to zone and rush down the opponent with large hitting attacks and devastating orb setups, because you can't just give somebody a gun in a fighting game. That would be silly. She has also a lot of tricky looking mix-ups. However, because of block protection, there's a chance that when she does these in the game, you just auto-block it, so they're not actually as scary as they look. Her damage is kind of fucked though. And Tsurugi, the newest member of the SHIELD Gang! SHIELD Gang! SHIELD Gang! I don't know what it is about French-bred games and characters that wield shields, but I just fucking love them every time they show up. This guy is fucking great. His special feature is that he has a shield, and is able to enter a stance where he uses his shield. The shield beats all high and mid attacks, as well as just completely ignoring projectiles, and gives him access to different moves. He can shield bash, hop over you, and slide! You have no idea how happy I was when I found out you can slide on the shield, and it was part of his B&B combo. Like, oh my god, you get to skate on him, it's so cool! He's very much a bully type character who is able to get in on the opponent's face, stick to you like glue with his Wrecker series, and oppress you with his shield options. Plus he can say fuck you to zoners, which is always a massive plus in my book. The final character is the one that we didn't get to play, so I'm not going to comment on it. The online system has been slightly reworked, and by reworked, I mean they stole that shit directly from Type Lumina and shoved it into Uni, and it works pretty well. I've heard complaints from people saying that it feels laggy with certain connections, and on the first day, you couldn't really find anyone to fight against, and people just couldn't get into matches. But I think this was a day one issue, and not a this netcode fucking sucks issue, hopefully. But the main thing they finally added to the game, the thing that makes Uni playable and will hopefully get more people on board, the thing that is going to save Undernight in Birth 2 is, of course, Rollback netcode. If you don't know, Rollback has become the default netcode for all major fighting games in the past few years. Going from pie-in-the-sky impossible to literally a staple of the genre, any game released without Rollback netcode basically died upon entering the scene after 2020. Undernight, sadly, never had Rollback netcode, even though the developers basically promised it was going to be added to Uniclur. So because of that, you could basically only play it with people in your region unless you wanted to pretend like you were fighting in a pool filled with custard. Thankfully now though, the game has silky smooth rollback with the ability to adjust your own delay if the teleporting gets a little bit too much for you. And while it's not the best rollback I've ever experienced, there was a couple of hiccups, it was still very fun and very much functionable. The only problem I had was trying to get a match with somebody that I actually knew. Hopefully this is just because it was a beta and they wanted you to play as many people as possible and not just your mates. But when I wanted to actually try and find somebody that I wanted to fight, I couldn't. Hopefully they had a search feature in the main game, but if you wanted to actually play against your friend, you kind of just had to pray that they would randomly show up in the sea of players. You could refresh the page several times, but trying to find them was very annoying, especially on day one. So hopefully Frenchbed actually adds a room feature so I can lose to Vatista more. With Rollback though, the game is finally going to have a much broader appeal and have more of a reason for people to pick it up. It's no longer going to be that game that you kind of have to know somebody physically around you to play, that you can just recommend to a couple of friends and then not anyone else. This is now a game where the global community is going to be able to play it, and they're going to be able to play it at a pretty competitive level. Uni has always interested me, but the netcode has made it so that I don't want to play it. Even playing somebody in Portugal was painful, because I'm too used to Rollback now. I can't play delay-based games anymore. Uni 2 finally getting Rollback is going to save the franchise. I just know it is. The Uni 2 beta was an amazing experience, and I'm extremely excited for the game to come out. The visuals are as pretty as ever, the gameplay is as good as it always has been, but now, most importantly, it is more accessible than ever. You can actually play the game online. Thank fuck. I am extremely excited for Uni 2, and I already missed the beta. Please bring it back or release the game already. Frenchbread, please! As always, a very special thanks to 64MHz, Almost Nap Time, Ben from Canada, Cervantes de Leon, Daniel Wiedericht, Fexo, Games.png, I am Naoto, MP04, Ray W, Richmine, Sergeant Cubby, Super, Forcon, Tom Tanks, Voltaic Charge, and Zandatsu being Tier 2 Patreon supporters.